NHL regular season recap, night 174, a bunch of games tonight. We kick it off with maybe the most important of the bunch, the Detroit Red Wings hosting the Washington Capitals. No goals in the first here. In fact, no goals for the first 37 minutes of the game before Dylan Strome, with his 27th of the year, makes it 1-0. And about 2 minutes later, Ovechkin scores to make it a 2-0 game with his 30th of the year. In the third period, we actually get no goals until 2 seconds remaining in the entire game. Patrick Kane's 20th, but it's a 2-1 victory here for Washington. Charlie Lindgren, despite not getting the shutout, was phenomenal in this one. 42 of 43, a .977, one of his best games of the year when we needed him most. Alex Lyon was pretty good as well, 21 of 23, though not nearly enough to keep up with Charlie Lindgren's fantastic game, and it's a huge 2-1 victory for Washington over the Red Wings. The Florida Panthers hosting the Ottawa Senators. Some weird circumstances before this game. It was announced that Bobrovsky was supposed to start. Apparently, Paul Maurice just goofed and said the wrong goalie's name at morning skate, so Stolarz was always supposed to start this one. Just a little bit of a media mishap on the behalf of Paul Maurice. Nonetheless, the Florida Panthers take care of business in this one. It's a surprisingly low-scoring game, just 2-0. Anton Lundell on the power play, and Nick Cousins, even strength. They're 12th and 7th of the year, respectively, at the 12:02 and 14:48 mark of the first period. The only 2 goals of the game, Korpisalo, 28 of 30 for a .933. Thought he had a pretty solid game. Stolarz, 25 of 25. Of course, he has a perfect game, and it's a 2-0 win for the Panthers. Not really too much to discuss in this one. A nice little win for them headed to the playoffs. Trying to catch back up to Boston. I don't think it'll happen, but these 2 points certainly help. 2-0 is the final over Ottawa. The Montreal Canadiens hosting the Philadelphia Flyers, and I don't know what to say about this game. The Flyers facing a team they should be able to beat in circumstances where they desperately need the 2 points. A bunch of other playoff race teams playing tonight in the East. A lot of them got points, and the Flyers very much do not get points in this one. Slafkovsky scores a minute into the first period to make it 1-0. That would be the only goal of the first, and that would be the only low-scoring period of the game. In the second, it is all Canadians. Slafkovsky, Gallagher, a hat-trick from Slafkovsky, Josh Anderson scoring for the first time in like 2 years, and then Christian Dvorak with his 4th of the year. It is 6-0 Habs after 2 periods. The Flyers would score 3 times in the third, but so would the Canadians. It's Paling, Dvorak, Gallagher once again, Farabee, Eric Johnson, and then Yoel Armia, and it's a 9-3 final for Montreal over Philadelphia. Sam Ersson was not good tonight. He goes 12 of 17 for a .706. Ivan Fedotov comes in relief. I didn't think he looked all that great either, despite giving up only 4 goals rather than 5. Either way, not a good game for Philadelphia. They're not mathematically out, but this feels like a dagger game to me. They're now down to 6th in the Metropolitan. For Montreal, it's a great effort. They actually get outshot by Philly, 30-36, but Sam Montembeault has a pretty solid game. I thought 33 of 36, a .917, and of course, they're quote, big guys had pretty good games. Great to see Slafkovsky having a good game. A handful of points here from Brendan Gallagher, Christian Dvorak with the 2 goals as well. A great effort from the Habs, a terrible one from Philadelphia. 9-3 is the final. The Devils hosting the Leafs. The Devils were pretty much out already, but this game definitely puts the dagger in things for them. Robertson and Heischer trading goals in the first. Mercer makes it 2-1 relatively early on in the second, but from there the Leafs kind of take over. It's Bertuzzi and Giordano both scoring in the second. Matthews and Bertuzzi get 2 more in the third. That's Matthews 66 for anybody keeping count of the race to 70. It's a 5-2 win here for Toronto. Joseph Woll was not very busy, only faces 20 shots, stops 18 of them. He had a fine game. Jake Allen faces 36. He stops 32. I thought he played a pretty good game as well. Just not enough goal support here from the Devils, and this probably again marks the end of their season. Of course, they have the few games remaining, but very, very unlikely that they make the playoffs at this point with a tough 5-2 loss to the Leafs. The Islanders hosting the Rangers in the rivalry of New York here, and the Islanders looked very good early. Mike Riley, Bo Horvat, and Kyle Palmieri all scoring to make it 3-0 after 1. It has shades of the Stadium Series game all over it, and then in the second, kind of the same story. The Rangers come back and score 2, both on the power play. Kreider and Fox with their 39th and 16th to make it a 1-goal game headed to the third, where there's no goals until Anders Lee nets the empty netter for his 20th of the year with 6 seconds to play. Kind of a little goalie battle here, not like a true, both of them having .950 plus save percentages, but I thought Shesterkin and Varlamov both had good saves when needed. Varlamov, of course, the better of the two, 32 of 34 for a .941, and more importantly, the 2 points. Shesterkin, 25 of 28 for an .893. This is a massive win for the Islanders. They're looking very, very good to make the playoffs here, and will probably end up locking up that 3rd divisional spot not too long from now. They've just looked very, very good of late. And for the Rangers, kind of a tough loss. The Hurricanes are creeping up on them a bit. This is the first time in a few nights where they've lost and the Canes have won. We'll discuss that game soon, but nonetheless here, a very strong 4-2 win for the Islanders. The Lightning hosting the Columbus Blue Jackets, and unlike some teams like the New Jersey Devils and Philadelphia Flyers, when the Lightning are facing a team that they should collect 2 points against, they've been doing it. They beat Columbus 5-2 in this one. Point and Marchenko trading goals in the first. Marchenko and Stamkos trading goals in the second. And then in the third, it's Cirelli and 2 more from Stamkos, his 37th, 38th, and 39th of the year with these ones. Marchenko 22nd and 23rd on the year. Jet Greaves, not his best night, 28 of 32 and 875. Vasilevsky, 30 of 32 for a 938. It was a very strong playoff Vasi-like performance in this one. So not great to see if you are any potential opponents for the Lightning going into the first round. But for the Bolts, this is a great game. They played very solid all around. The Columbus Blue Jackets, I thought, did a good job keeping themselves in it. It was a tight game at times, but just not enough to get more scoring chances past Vasi. The Lightning, of course, very efficient at capitalizing when they get chances, and as a result, they get 5 past Blue Jackets, and it's a 5-2 victory. The Bruins hosting the Carolina Hurricanes, a battle of 2 of the top teams in the East. And this one went to the Canes pretty handily, I thought. Andrei Svechnikov, the opening goal of the game, another Michigan from him, makes it 1-0. Teravainen, 3 minutes later, makes it 2-0. And then Charlie McAvoy, with about 3 minutes to go in the second, makes it a 1-goal game. But in the third, Jay Gensel scores his 28th halfway through the frame to make it 3-1. And then Seth Jarvis, just 3 minutes after that, scores shorthanded, his 30th of the year, to make it 4-1. And that is where the final score would sit. Pyotr Kochetkov only faces 23 shots, stops 22 of them, a 967. Jeremy Swayman struggling a bit in this one, 22 of 26 for an 846. This late stretch from him has not been great, and it probably solidifies Ullmark as the game 1 starter for the playoffs. We'll see what happens. I know Montgomery's probably going to go with more of a rotation than he did last year, but Swayman, having struggled of late, does not bode well for him headed into game 1 of the playoffs. Nonetheless, a nice little win here from Carolina, 4-1, as they try to keep pace with the Rangers at the top of the Metro. The Stars hosting the Buffalo Sabres. Not the most eventful game in this one. The Sabres actually led after 1 period, goals from Alex Tuch and Rasmus Dahlin for them. Jason Robertson scoring the goal in between those two that made it a 2-1 game. In the second, though, Wyatt Johnston, his 32nd of the year, ties us up, and then the game winner comes in the second period. It's Joe Pavelski, his 27th, that makes it a 3-2 game, and the goalies held pat the rest of the way. UPL 22 of 25 for an 880. Jake Ottinger 19 of 21. He was not very busy, but was good when called upon, and it's a 3-2 win here for Dallas. Very likely that they're going to win the division at this point. I think they just need 1 more point to clinch. The Avs need to win out just to catch them, never mind get above them. So we'll see if there's even any possible way that the Avs can make that happen. I highly doubt it. Dallas looking very likely to play not only the wild card team, but probably the bottom of the 2 wild card teams, which there's a decent chance it's Vegas or LA. So congrats for all your hard work in the regular season. You get one of those 2 guys. Nonetheless, they collect 2 more points tonight to bring it to 110, I believe, or 109 on the year. 3-2 over Buffalo. The Predators hosting the Jets. This game had all the makings of a banger, and it lived up to it 100%. Tommy Novak scores 4 minutes in to make it 1-0, and then the Jets turn on the Jets for the rest of the first. It's Gabe Vilardi, Mark Scheifele, and Dylan DeMello with their 20th, 24th, and 3rd of the year, making it 3-1 after 1. We get no goals in the second, but the Preds turn it back on in the third. It's Stastny and O'Reilly scoring just 2 minutes apart at the 7:34 and 9:41 mark to tie us up at 3. The goalies stay strong the rest of regulation, and we head to overtime while Kyle Connor gets the game winner from Pionk and Scheifele to make it a 4-3 win here for the Jets, who are sneakily trying to make up some ground on the Colorado Avalanche after this game. 104 points for the Avs, 102 for the Jets, but the Jets have that game in hand, and they do have a game coming up against Colorado, which is going to be a huge one and probably determine who gets home ice advantage in that 2-3 seed game in the Central. So a big one coming up, a big one that they win tonight. 4-3 over Nashville is the final. Connor Hellebuck was great, by the way, 45 of 48. UC Saros not the best, 18 of 22. Hellebuck showing why he's likely going to win the Vezina. The Avalanche hosting the Minnesota Wild, a rivalry of old, did not look like that much of a rivalry tonight. The Avs kind of walked all over Minnesota. It's Lehkonen, McKinnon, Kaprizov, and Boldy in the first. Nate McKinnon, his 49th of the year with that one. And then in the second period, Makar gets his 20th. McKinnon gets his 50th and then his 51st as well. It's a hat trick from Nate Dogg. He also throws an assist in there. Makar with the goal and 2 assists. Jonathan Drouin, 3 assists tonight. All the big guys looking pretty good here for Colorado. And Alex Georgiev in the winning effort, 20 of 22 for a 909, while Gustafsson just 27 of 32 4 and 844. The Avs doing all this, by the way, without Mikko Rantanen, who will hopefully be back in the near future. Just concussion protocol, dodged a bullet there on a serious, quote, serious injury, as unserious as concussions can be. Always kind of hard to judge. But nonetheless, a big win here for the Avs, 5-2 over Minnesota. The Kraken hosting the Arizona Coyotes, and despite outshooting the Kraken pretty heavily, the Kraken win this one by a final of 5-0. Shane Wright and Andrei Burakovsky getting goals in the first, Justin Schultz in the second, and then Tanev and Will Borgen in the third. Karel Vejmelka did not have a good night, 20 of 25. Philip Grubauer, though, had a fantastic night, 39 of 39, a perfect game from him. Good to see Shane Wright continue to get points up on the board. He's been pretty good since being called up. All in all, just a solid game here from the Kraken. Doesn't mean too much for either of these teams, but for the Kraken faithful on their home ice, good to get this win 5-0 over the Yotes. The Ducks hosting the Kings in the California matchup for the night, and the Ducks actually get it done tonight. Lucas Distal faces a bunch of shots, and as expected, when he does so, has a pretty solid game. Akil Thomas scoring his second of the year to make it 1-0 LA early on, but Frank Vetrano scores his 33rd, making it a one-goal game at the end of the first. No goals in the second frame, and then Killorn and Zegras both strike in the first 5.5 minutes of the third to make it 3-1 Anaheim, and from there, Distal and the Ducks hold it down, despite getting outshot 13-9 in the final frame. It's a 3-1 victory from them. Cam Talbot, not quite good enough tonight, 24 of 27. Of course, only one goal of support does not make it very easy. Lucas Distal, again, fantastic, 36 of 37 for him in the winning effort. Kind of a tough bid here for the Kings. They do remain in the third divisional spot here, but of course, now just 1 point ahead of Vegas when they could have been 3 points up with the same number of games played. So we'll see what happens there. It's going to be a tight race between those two teams at the end of the year here. We'll see if one of these teams decides to flip-flop it, whether it's LA choking it away or Vegas reaching up and grabbing it from the Kings. But for tonight, they lose a tough one, 3-1 in Anaheim. Final game of the night is not the most exciting one. The Sharks hosting the Calgary Flames, two non-playoff teams, two playoff teams that have not been playing all that good over the last month and a half for the Sharks. That's been really their entire year. William Eklund, though, continues to play pretty well. He opens the scoring here, 7:22 into the first. In the second, it's McDonald, Anderson, and Kadri all scoring to make it a 2-2 game. We head to the third tied at 2. No goals in the third. Dustin Wolf and Mackenzie Blackwood holding down the fort for their respective teams. We head to overtime where it's Andrei Kuzmenko on the power play from Kadri and Huberdeau that makes it a 3-2 victory here for Calgary. They should still beat the Sharks team. They're the better team on paper. They are the better team on the ice. Blah, 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 blah. Dustin Wolf, 20 of 22 for a 909. Mackenzie Blackwood, despite the loss, was pretty good in this one. He faced 41, stops 38 of them. That's a 927 here in the losing effort. And that is it for NHL regular season recap night. What night are we on? 174, I think? We'll go with that, 174. Couple games tomorrow. The biggest one, of course, that Vegas game. So we'll see what happens there, whether or not they can make up some ground on the LA Kings. And, of course, that's always a good game between Vegas and Edmonton. So rest up, and we will talk to you guys then.